Have you ever wondered why the Dutch East India Company, or the Verenigde Oostindische Compagnie, as it was known in its day, came into existence? The answer lies in the tumultuous era of the late 16th and early 17th centuries, a time when nations competed fiercely for wealth and power. The story begins in the late 1500s. The Dutch Republic, a small yet ambitious nation, had just emerged from the shadows of Spanish dominance. They craved a slice of the lucrative spice trade, a market dominated by the Portuguese and Spanish. They sought to break this monopoly and establish themselves on the global stage. The Dutch had made several unsuccessful attempts to establish trade routes to the East Indies. The costs of these endeavors were high, and the risks even higher. Individual merchants and small companies lacked the resources and the protection to compete against the larger, well-armed Spanish and Portuguese fleets. Recognizing this, the Dutch government decided to take a different approach. In 1602, they granted a charter to a new entity, the Dutch East India Company. This charter gave the company a monopoly over Dutch trade in the East Indies. More than that, it bestowed upon the company the power to wage war, negotiate treaties, and establish colonies. The company was a joint stock corporation, a novel concept at the time. Investors, known as shareholders, would pool their resources to fund the company's voyages. In return, they would receive a share of the profits. This shared risk, shared reward model attracted investors from across the Dutch Republic, and soon, the Dutch East India Company had the capital it needed to compete on the global stage. The creation of the Dutch East India Company marked a significant shift in the world of international trade. It was the first multinational corporation, and its success laid the groundwork for the modern global economy. But the Dutch East India Company was more than just a business. It was a symbol of Dutch ambition and a tool of Dutch power. Its ships sailed across the world, establishing trading posts and colonies, and spreading Dutch influence far and wide. Yet like all empires, the Dutch East India Company had its rise and fall. By the late 18th century, the company was in decline. Mismanagement, corruption, and fierce competition from the British East India Company led to its eventual bankruptcy in 1803. The Dutch government seized the company's assets and took control of its territories. So, the story of the Dutch East India Company is one of ambition, innovation, and ultimately, decline. It was created to break a monopoly, to compete in a global market, and to assert Dutch power on the world stage. Its legacy is still felt today, in the global economy it helped to shape, and in the former colonies that still bear the imprint of Dutch influence. As we reflect on the story of the Dutch East India Company, we see a tale that is as much about the rise and fall of empires as it is about the evolution of global trade. A tale that offers a fascinating glimpse into a world in flux, and a nation determined to make its mark.